I'm glad that Universal finally gave up on trying to make the Dark Universe work. These monster flicks clearly work best as standalone feature films and not as part of a shared cinematic universe. And I think Universal probably understood that point after the success of 2020's Invisible Man, which is good because that movie is awesome. I've been a fan of Lee Winnell ever since he helped create the Saw franchise, but The Invisible Man was clearly his best work to date. He updated a classic monster for modern audiences in a way that truly felt scary and effective, with a story that also had some interesting social commentary. So when I heard that Universal hired him back for an update on The Wolfman, I was really excited. I couldn't wait to see his take on another classic monster, especially since I do enjoy a good werewolf movie. Vampires have been making a good comeback lately, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm a bigger werewolf fan at heart. So I had very high expectations for Lee Winnell's Wolfman. Unfortunately, and this probably comes as a surprise to no one, I was very disappointed with this movie. It began in a rather compelling way, telling a story that did offer an interesting exploration of fatherhood. It's just a shame that the story got less and less engaging as the movie went on. Blake and his family are attacked by a wild animal, and in a desperate attempt to escape, they barricade themselves inside of a family farmhouse. As the night stretches on, however, Blake begins to transform into something unrecognizable, jeopardizing the safety of his wife and daughter. And I think unrecognizable is the key word in that synopsis, since Blake never really turned into a werewolf. Sure, he turned a bit hairy and wild, but his transformation didn't resemble anything remotely close to a wolf. He looked more like a man in a Planet of the Apes costume more than anything else, and that was incredibly frustrating, because if the Wolfman doesn't turn into a wolf, then what are we even doing here? I assume Lee Winnell was trying to ground the movie in some sense of realism, much like he did with The Invisible Man, but I think he went too far in that direction here. After all, most of my interest in seeing a movie called Wolfman comes from wanting to see a man transform into a wolf. Thankfully, the movie did feature some tense moments of body horror, especially as we see Blake's perspective of becoming the wolf like man. But these moments weren't enough to keep me invested in the rest of the movie, which is a shame since the first half of the film was admittedly pretty good. When I got through the first half an hour or so, I thought I was going to be one of the few people who actually enjoyed it. But the second half of the film, lack of werewolf aside, was just really uninteresting. The more predictable the story became, the less frightening the tone became. And the less scary the movie became, the less effective the themes about fatherhood became. Everything just started to devolve as the movie progressed. Everything except for the acting, that is. Everyone in this cast delivered a really solid performance throughout, and that was especially true for Christopher Abbott's lead performance. Sure, it would have been interesting to see what Ryan Gosling would have done with this material under the direction of Derek Cianfrance, but Christopher Abbott did a fine job of leading this film. I especially enjoyed watching his character undergo moments of sadness or confusion because his face would perfectly express the look of a lost puppy dog, which seemed appropriate given the subject matter. But this was not the werewolf comeback that I was hoping for. It had some good elements featured in it, but not enough to keep it from being a really disappointing creature feature. I'd rather watch this than 2017's The Mummy, but given its poor reception and underwhelming performance at the box office, it'll be interesting to see which direction Universal will take with their future monster flicks. Will they go back to building a shared cinematic universe? Will they stick to standalone feature films? Will they give Lee Winnell another crack at a different monster? Would Lee Winnell even want to work on another monster movie? I guess only time will tell. Whatever they do, I hope Winnell's next project will end up being a bit better than this, because Wolfman would, unfortunately, not get a recommendation from me. Now, I should note that this review was first posted on my website, davidthemovieguy.com, so if you want to know my thoughts early, or if you just don't want to listen to the annoying sound of my voice, you can feel free to head on over there. But be sure to let me know what you thought about Wolfman, and as always, thanks for watching.